The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of the ANA or its members.
We've been working on a prototype for a new type of cap, and the cap basically helps you get all the product out. And we're like, what if we just sent them the prototype and just see what they say? This is our little mini wacky focus group. What if we sent them a fresh bottle because they clearly ran out? And we're not going to ask them for any. All we're going to say is, look, we saw your stuff. We just want to know what you think, right? Almost every single person, less than 20 people, ended up, of course, posting content about it that then went viral and reached millions of people.
Right.
And what they said was, I've never had a company listen to me.
On today's episode of On Scope, former CMO and brand new president of EOS, Soyoung Kang, joins us to explain why the challenger mindset is a great advantage for brands of all sizes. And on marketing news you might have missed, AB InBev and Netflix enter into a global partnership, the likes of which this industry has never seen before. All that next on Scope. Holy moly, can you believe it? We are back here for another episode of On Scope, the marketing podcast brought to you by the ANA and powered by Odyssey, a leading audio streaming platform. You can get your favorite podcasts, music, or entertainment all on the Odyssey app. I am your host, Mike Berberich, and with me, as always, producer of On Scope, Ryan Dinger. Hey, hi, hello, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, Mike. How you doing, buddy?
We're keeping it moving. We're hanging in there, and we're just glad to be back after a little time away.
Yeah, nice to see you again.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, I missed you a little bit.
Well, the feeling's always mutual there, Bubba. But you know what? I really gotta say, with my little time away, I have just been hankering for some marketing news we might have missed.
Well, Mike, I got just the thing for you.
It
is marketing news you might have missed.
Whew.
This week, we've got a story from Marketing Week. I think you're going to like this one.
All right, hit me.
Potential here.
I like being excited.
Here's the headline for you. AB InBev and Netflix form brand partnership to create, quote, deeper experiences.
Ooh.
Streaming giant Netflix and beer business AB InBev have formed a global partnership that will see the two brands collaborate on co-marketing campaigns. AB InBev, which owns beer brands including Stella Artois, Corona, and Budweiser, has previously spoken about its ambition to link its brand to consumer passion points, including sports, music, and culture. The partnership with Netflix is designed to further that ambition and will involve activities including consumer activations, title integrations, limited edition packaging, and digital promotions. The partnership will span Netflix's global content, with activations coming to life across popular content titles including The Gentleman from the UK, Brazil 70, A Saga du Tree from Brazil, and Culinary Class Wars from South Korea. The two companies have referred to the partnership as, quote, unprecedented in the global reach and scale of activations. Exciting news on the Netflix and AB InBev front, Mike. There's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah,
Go
for it, please.
The first thing that stands out to me is the limited edition packaging.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that's been in marketing for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's an analog play, but, maybe a little bit overlooked these days.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think. We're also digitally minded, digitally obsessed. So I'm curious, what comes to mind for you when you think about, some great packaging, or maybe a McDonald's Happy Meal giveaway that was related to a movie? They did that a lot when we were kids. What? I have a lot of warm fuzzies about this, but I'm curious if anything comes to mind for you.
Ryan, I honestly have been waiting for this day.
Good.
Because my favorite marketing activation of all time.
Wow, okay.
Is the partnership between Pizza Hut and the film Land Before Time. There were plush animal giveaways at Pizza Hut, and what I really appreciated about it, it was kind of selling the idea of go get some takeout from Pizza Hut, come home and watch just an absolute family classic together. It tied in the experience. That was one of my favorite movies growing up. I was obsessed with dinosaurs.
Who wasn't?
So, well, yeah, I mean, but like that tied in everything. I'm not even going to guess at how long ago that was, decades and decades and decades at least, but it will forever hold a place in my heart. Ryan, where are the warm and fuzzies leading you?
Not long enough ago that I also don't remember it. I remember those Land Before Time. They weren't plushy. They were like a high quality rubber.
Yeah.
There was some good stuff. I think a little bit more recent, but still a long time ago, we are perpetually showing our age on this show. In 2007, the Simpsons movie hit theaters, and they did a product partnership with 7-Eleven, where you could go and get like Duff beer, which was actually like, or I'm sorry, it wasn't Duff beer, it was like Buzz Cola. You could get like straw decorations and stuff on your Slurpees. They had limited edition Slurpee cups. I was a big time Simpsons fan. I had all this merchandise in my room growing up, like just a lot of good stuff. And it's interesting to see like what types of things we'll see from like Netflix properties coming out with AB InBev brands. But one of the other things that comes to mind for me about this potential partnership, or not this potential, this now blooming partnership, like product placement. Product placement, obviously an old standby for the marketer, but often done more recently in a way where it's a little too overt for me.
I feel
there's not the nuance there that there was before. I think about like the original Jurassic World movie, which came out in like 2015 or something, and there's this great scene in that where like Chris Pratt's character, I forget his name, but he's like fixing a motorcycle and he's all like sweaty, it's a hot day, and he pulls out like an ice cold bottle of Coca-Cola with like the label perfectly facing the camera and does like a wipe the sweat off his brow, where it was like so overt that like it actually took me out of the movie. I don't think that this was a particularly good product, and that movie was chock full of over the top product placement, but like this idea of like how you get back to doing it in a way to where it like affects the subconscious, and it's not overt.
Absolutely. And I'm pulling back. I wish I had an example to share from the 21st century, but we'll get there one day, maybe. There is a movie I remember called Bye Bye Love, and I probably watched it way more times than I should have or would have if my parents didn't have HBO occasionally. And there's like one of 5 movies that play
weekends,
all
those HBO
the time.
preview weekends.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. But it was a movie about, couples of all different kinds, together, divorced, working through a separation, and how they dealt with their kids and upbringing that. And I just remember that McDonald's was like the neutral ground, and it's where all the handoffs came and if we needed to talk, but it was never pushed to the fore.
Yeah.
But you got this idea that like no matter how fraught or no matter how many things were going on, when you got to McDonald's, everything was like okay and safe for a while. And I just thought, without ever I don't think they said the name ever, maybe once or twice, but they really did it in a way where it was just a helper along the way. It was never trying to be the hero, even for one scene. And I think that's a really good approach for our friends over at AB InBev as they ingratiate themselves into the fine Netflix programming.
Yeah, that's a good one. And that brings to mind like branded content, There's a lot there, right? There's a lot of ideas. I think you were talking when we were sort of pitching this story about some commercials that had used like existing IP.
Yep. That it was almost more for the IP to be in your commercial. One that really stands out in my memory, Bud Light did, I believe it was a Super Bowl commercial, where all of a sudden one of the dragons from Game of Thrones infiltrated their commercial, and it wasn't ever about like, they didn't have like one of the characters being like, this is refreshing. It was like, oh my goodness, that is this cultural zeitgeist, and now it's in an ad. And just the association with that and the energy around it, I think there are some very interesting opportunities here.
Yeah, because I think you could actually do the inverse of that as well. Like I can see a reality, a future where a brand like Budweiser is now doing branded content that lives on Netflix, and in a like subtle way, like we're talking about, like for example, a reality show called Beer Wars that's like
Oh my
about
God,
small time breweries kind of battling. We got to figure out the format for the show before we get our pitch together.
Yeah, exactly.
Netflix. But like sponsored by Budweiser,
Yeah.
or featuring some of the lesser known AB InBev labels,
For sure.
where there's this light touch sponsorship, but it's really more of a content play that lives out on Netflix. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and then that takes you to shoppable content. Are we on a path now where we can soon see shoppable content on Netflix? And I know for an alcohol brand with the regulation around that could be tough to sell actual product in shoppable content, but they have so much merchandise around what they do: koozies, special mugs, like even clothing, hats and stuff, like where you can start to fit these into TV shows and then just have a little button here, hey, like that hat. I mean, we've seen other brands already doing a version of this other places. Why shouldn't it come to Netflix?
No, and we've been talking about this notion of brands acting like media companies for over a decade at this point.
Right.
Like, makes perfect sense to have Beer Wars t-shirts and like maybe like who's your team for this season? Like, can you imagine a commercial during an NFL game that has been acquired by Netflix? That programming, that game has been secured by Netflix. But it's not for AB InBev products. It's by a brand new show launching on Netflix, produced by AB InBev.
Yeah.
It's
an exciting possibility.
If you want to deepen engagement, I see a lot of opportunities in thinking outside the box.
Yeah, very intriguing partnership. And speaking of outside the box marketing,
Go ahead.
we got a guest today who knows a little bit about that, don't we, Mike?
Oh my goodness, we do. Every week, it's some sort of magic.
That's right.
Don't know how it happens. But yes, our guest today is always thinking outside the box, and that is what recently landed her the seat of president of EOS, where she is responsible for driving the overall strategy, planning, and operations for marketing, product, and e-commerce at the Gen Z-focused beauty brand. She has been named a Forbes CMO Next, Campaign US CMO 50, and a Business Insider CMO to watch. Ooh,
Unbelievable.
My goodness.
What a resume.
Yes, so today, the one and only Soyoung Kang joins us to share why EOS is sticking to a challenger mindset despite being a category leader. My conversation with Soyoung is up next. Listeners, this is a banner day here at OnScope, the marketing podcast. We have a marketer that I'm sure most of you are jealous of. And we're about to break down kind of the magic behind all of this. I have none other than Soyoung Kang, the CMO of EOS, in the building. Soyoung, thank you so much for stopping by the pod.
Oh my God, what an intro. Can you just do all my intros in life in general?
My rates for hype man are a lot higher than podcast hosts, so I just got to tell you. Happy to do it. Happy to do it, but I'll have my lawyers send over some paperwork. We'll talk about it. But so when I first had the idea of like we've got to bother Soyoung until she says yes, I was like, well, EOS began with this incredible like challenger brand, like moxie, like a little chip on the shoulder a little bit, or at least that's kind of what was exuding. And I'm like, but then you guys started crushing category after category. And I was like, I wonder what happens when they go Hollywood. But that didn't happen, did it?
I don't think so, and I hope it never does. So you're absolutely right. The business was actually founded very much like on an original challenger mentality, when the whole idea was everybody is doing it one way, we're going to do it a completely different way. And at the time, it was related to, we're famous for our egg-shaped lip balms. So the idea was everybody else is the same old boring stick. We're going to do an egg-shaped thing that is fun and collectible and delightful. And we're going to launch it in a way that nobody's ever done. Hey, this whole social media thing that was new at the time, 15 years ago.
100%.
We're going to launch on social media with influencers, people who are going to help tell our story on our behalf. And so I really like to think that today my job is to honor that heritage of disruption and to figure out how I take that into the next kind of phase of this journey for obviously a much longer standing, much larger company in very different categories than where we first started out. So I guess if I think about it, to me, being a challenger is a behavior, not a budget.
Oh, I love that.
So it's really about how do I think about how we act and think and approach problem solving, approach, really everything that we do within the team. It's not just about being constrained from a budget standpoint. Now, look, are we constrained from a budget standpoint? Of course. I think everybody, no matter how much money you have, feels like you're constrained from a budget standpoint. But isn't that the beauty of it? Because I think that when you do work with constraints, it forces you to be that much more creative. It forces you to really figure out what matters and how to attack the problem with the things that are meaningful.
Yeah. Art is limitation, full stop.
Yes.
I mean, and I love that. And I think, I was talking to somebody today about, how in music, have you ever heard of the sophomore slump? Like a band comes out, they do a great first album, and then the second one, for some reason, just doesn't have that same thing. I think a lot of it is abandoning what got you to this place of writing really resonant stuff because you have a bigger budget. And you're like, wow, let's make it easier and shinier and this and that. And so really inspiring. I love it. Challenger is a behavior, not a budget. Let's go. Quotable in the first 5 minutes.
T-shirts, hats.
Yes, done. We're done. We're rolling it out. It's the second mug. We're getting a second mug, everybody. So now, as we were kind of briefly discussing right before the cameras started rolling, a lot of what we see in the customer-facing end has to be attributed to what's going on behind the scenes. So could you tell us about the culture and the organization at EOS that allows you to move so quickly? I think this is one thing. The quality is there, but the speed in which you all execute is bewildering. And an incredible example of that is the Bless Your Cooch campaign, which materialized in hours and actually resulted in a new product launch.
Yeah. So, for those of the listeners who aren't familiar with that case study, essentially, we noticed something happening within social media, which was that there was a, just completely organically unsolicited someone who was extolling the virtues of our shave cream, which was not the biggest part of our portfolio. In fact, it was a product as well as a broader category that was in kind of a slump. And they were speaking about the virtues of it for shaving your private parts, her private parts. And she did not say, she used much more colorful language than that. Let's just say that. And the response that we decided on along with our creative agency was that we were going to literally put her words, bless your effing cooch, on our product and launch product that basically would be available for sale. And of course it sold out, and it drove a ton of awareness and a ton of interest and engagement. And what that led to was that we jumped from, being in the middle of the pack to being at the top of the pack. We actually drove a ton of growth for the total category. So it wasn't just us.
That's cool.
The category just expanded and grew as a result of all of this renewed interest in what had been not a very exciting category before. So, and that all happened within days.
That's insane.
So if you're speaking about speed.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is that the part of the story that is, that is not as well known is that before that, we had been an organization, let's say 2 years before that was relatively risk averse. So to go from being an organization that is pretty risk averse to being an organization that leans in on colorful and, yes, some would say profane words, in the interest of truth, brand truth, product truth, all of these things, and very quickly was a journey. And so I think that when, I get asked a lot, how did you manage to do that? How did you convince people? And it's like, you know what? The act was quick, but the foundational work to lead up to trust, to lead up to aligned points of view, to lead up to we're all in sync as a leadership team, we're all in sync as a marketing team on how to move quickly. That foundational work took a long time. So when you see speed, oftentimes the work that precedes the speed, it is actually not that speedy. It's the hard work of building in culture, building in organizational norms, and building in trust as a company that allows you to move fast when you have the opportunity.
That is so cool. And it always, this kind of type of conversation always leads me back to like the way bamboo grows is like, it's nothing. It's dirt for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then in 72 hours, it sprouts up. Like people will sit and watch it with their naked eye, the bamboo growing. But anybody who comes along before that is like, you're watering dirt. You understand that, right? So.
Well, the other thing about bamboo is, as somebody who is a homeowner, the other thing about bamboo is that in order to stop it, you have to basically fill in like a 5-foot deep concrete trench, which is the roots go deep. Once you've established the roots, once you've established that foundational work as an organization with trust, as a culture, the roots go deep and then you're unstoppable.
I love that. So like, what was the mix of like personal relationship building so people knew you and could trust you, because that's a huge part of it. The work is the work, but like the people behind it really matter. And like, and what percentage of it was like, what little experiments, what little wins can I bring? Like, see, that wasn't so bad, right? What was that like? What was that kind of in the trenches day to day look like?
That's a really great question because it is both. I think there has to be trust of you as a leader, and that you have the business's best interests at heart, and that every action is being guided from wanting to deliver growth on the business. And I think that it, over the years, because at that point I had been in my role for a little under 3 years. And I really worked hard to demonstrate myself as being a business-minded, business-savvy leader, not just purely a creative leader, not just purely even like functionally a marketing leader per se, but a business leader and a member of the C-suite that contributes meaningfully to driving the growth of the total business. And that work does take time, and you have to show up as a co-owner of the business every day in order to be able to build that trust. And then I think that the other piece of it, which is to kind of like also build up an understanding of the medium itself. It takes like breadcrumbs along the way. And I think that when we were at that point where we were willing to move really quickly because we were living in this sort of like social media at the speed of culture type of world and environment, we still are. We had shown along the way many examples and dropped the breadcrumbs with the broader organization of this is how things work on TikTok. This is how things work on short-form video platforms. This is how things work with creator marketing. This is how things work when you see something organically gaining traction, and how brands, whether it's an example from us or other brands, how they take advantage of it. And so constantly being in the position where you are advocating on behalf of the things that work within your function with the broader organization really helped get everybody up to speed on how to succeed within this world of social media and reactive, fast-moving, quick creator marketing.
That's really brilliant. Yeah, one thing that I love that you mentioned in there is being a co-owner of the business. I've never heard anybody else in the C-suite talk like they're the one weirdo in the room. I know marketing has got a lot of things going on, but the CFO, I've never heard of, oh gosh, if everybody else feels like they belong there. Yeah. I think we sometimes as like a profession put that on ourselves a little bit. Yeah. So I love that. And listeners, stick around, because when you think EOS, you might think social media, but I think incredible insights. We're not the same. Stick around. We'll be right back. Ryan?
Yes?
I have been thinking.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I told you. I thought we talked about this, actually.
I know, and I am trying.
Okay.
But this one snuck in.
All right, well, what's up?
Well, I'm just thinking, talking to Soyoung today, the brand that they built over at EOS is kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah.
That it is so solid and it is so connected to their purpose that they can go out and see and attach it to some of the wildest stuff I have seen on any corner of TikTok. And they're just bulletproof. Everybody gets it. It fits in. They don't have to overthink things.
Yeah.
They just know their brand, and they could go to really far stretching places and be as bold as they want to be. It's all because of that BRAND.
Yeah, Soyoung's done a great job.
Yeah, and I just feel like, listen, we're getting a lot of great insights from this conversation, but for our marketers out there who are like as amped as I am, and want to get into this brand thing, like they see it, they see the city on the hill, they see what could be in EOS, and they want to inject that magic into their own organization, but like I feel like I just don't have anywhere to point them.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
well, I think first things first, finish the episode, right?
Okay.
Go through the
Yeah,
episode. You want to
that's
hear more
fair,
from
that's fair,
Soyoung.
that's
She's been
fair.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I promise, second half of the conversation will not disappoint.
Absolutely.
But once you get done listening, there is a place our listeners can go.
Ryan, do tell.
Yes, that's the A&A brand practice, Mike.
Oh my God, how do I forget these
Yes,
things?
the brand practice. It's the place where you can go to learn how to connect brand and demand, measure brand's real value, and fuel growth that lasts, like what Soyoung has done with EOS. They went from challenger to being on top
Absolutely.
through the brand.
Through the
if you
brand.
want to do the same thing, you need to check out the A&A brand.
You absolutely do, because let's be real, without brand, you're just another marketer pushing ads into the void. Like there's nothing that hangs together. You might as well just be sending out blank pieces of paper around town.
That's quite Kafka-esque.
Yes.
By the way.
So escape your existential dread with the A&A brand practice. Listen, smarter brand marketing starts where? Starts here at ana.net/brand. That's ana.net/brand. And now, on with the show.
Talk about a marketing metamorphosis.
Whew, you are firing gems today. Everyone, we are back. My guest, Soyoung Kang, CMO of EOS. And as I was saying, a lot of the buzz around your brand success has been from the creative outputs and especially on social media. But as far as I can see, it's the process with which the brand generates its insights that's really the superpower. What does that process look like behind the scenes?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for recognizing that, because I do think that we talk a lot about creative, and the creative would be nowhere without the insight that drives the creative.
1,000,000%.
I really believe as somebody who, in my past life was more of a strategist, not necessarily in marketing, but just strategy in general, business strategy. I believe that the work that we do has to be grounded in insights and strategy in order to be actually able to effectively move the business. And for me, I often say, and my team will confirm this, that the question I always ask is why. I'm a big why or why not or kind of person, where when we're talking about what's happening, I care almost less about what's actually happening. I care about why it's happening.
Yes.
Or why it's not happening.
Yeah.
And so I think that for me, insight is just sort of like very inherent to kind of who I am and how I lead. I do think that I have had the privilege of growing up in an industry prior to the role that I'm in now. I spent over a decade in retail. And in retail, you spend a lot of time out in stores. And the goal to be out in stores for many people, you want to see what the reality is of the world. You don't want to sort of like be ivory tower or like making things up.
Of course.
But also you get to talk to people. You talk to real people who are engaging with your brand, engaging with your business, engaging with your product, and you start to understand them at a level that is oftentimes very hard to do from your office or reading a deck or, all of these things, or frankly, even in a focus group. You're seeing people in the real world and what they really think. And when I left retail to come into this role 7 years ago, I missed that. I craved that connection to, the end of the value chain. To me, the consumer, the audience, they're the end of the value chain. And you really want to understand like what makes them tick. And the closest thing that I could find was social media. And I know we talk a lot about social media as being sort of, it's a platform. It's, it's for advertising, marketing, all of these things. To me, number one, it's an insights engine.
Love it.
Because for me, when I see people and what they put out there in social media, how they talk about things, I learned so much about what people think unvarnished, unfiltered, where it's become sort of like this 24/7, 365 focus group, I suppose, like where you're getting this direct line to people. And then you start to pick up the dots. You spoke earlier about speed. I've been thinking a lot lately about how speed absolutely can be a superpower and it can be a competitive advantage, but sometimes the best things come slowly and they come over time. And for me, that's been things like noticing trends happening as I observe and draw insights out of my social media listening and observation. And one of those things, for example, one of our most popular product lines is in body care. And I know a lot of people think of us as like a lip care company or maybe shave based on, the viral campaign. But actually body care has been the thing that's completely taken over for us as a brand. And when we first launched our product, we launched it as, hey, we're doing what everybody else is doing. We're going to do 24-hour moisture and, safe for sensitive skin and, with XYZ ingredients. Is very, very performance driven and problem solution driven. What we started to see, and it took a while because you're trying to pick up the little nuggets and the kernels and the breadcrumbs as well. What we started to see was that what people actually really loved about it was how it made them feel attractive. So, and they didn't just say, oh, this lotion, this EOS lotion makes me feel attractive. What they said, of course, in their own words was, that lotion got me pregnant.
I was going to bring this up if you didn't.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I know that lotion will get you flipped like a pancake.
Oh my God.
And these were like, women who were talking about like how much their partner loved how their skin felt, how their skin smelled when they were using our products. And so, of course, that took time. We picked up this trail over time, and that insight was so valuable to us. That insight that, okay, the category looks one way, but there's this hidden insight about why consumers are buying, who love our brand, and what ultimately drives their purchase decisions and their affinity and their loyalty is how it makes them feel. And it makes them feel attractive. And they love how they feel when they feel that way and when they're attractive to their partner. And so then we created an entire campaign where literally we said, you know what, we can't tell this story any better than they can. So we licensed all their words. We went back and we found all of the words. We licensed all their words. And then we created an ad campaign just repeating their words. Like, this lotion got me pregnant. And there's no better and more truthful and more insightful storyline than what we had heard from our community.
Yeah, I was going to say that there is a line that nobody will ever cross at a focus group. And if you can get this kind of insight out of a focus group, come meet me and I want to shake your hand. But yeah, that way. And just kudos to EOS for not being like, okay, well, they said that. So let's say, oh, it's a romance, like I feel like there's, especially the bigger a brand gets, there can be this kind of counterintuitive thing of like, oh, that's incredible. How do we smooth it over and bring it down to a thing? And so that you just, oh, how can we say this? It was just said as good as it's getting. Yeah. And so and you know what? I think that the reaction to this, EOS is not known as a salacious whatever brand. These are all, it's just fun.
Yes.
It's fun and it's real and it's relatable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think that there could be marketers out there would be like, no, we're gonna be the sex brand. Like, no, this is real life. The same people who are making these comments are the same people who are your customers. This is how we're all thinking. So I'm so glad you brought that up because I just thought I was cackling at some of the things that your fans have said.
Well, that's
brilliant.
the thing. They said it, right? So, and that's what's really, just so valuable about those words specifically. We're not sanitizing anybody's words. We're not repackaging them. We're not taking the spirit of this insight that we found. What the insight is that there's more value in real people's real words than there ever could be in me trying to put a spin on it. And so to me, it's not about, being about being salacious.
Right.
It's about being real.
Real as hell.
That's what our brand is about. It's about being real and being as relatable as a brand possibly can be to real people.
I absolutely love it. So we've touched on it a few times in this conversation, but TikTok has been a platform that you guys have absolutely deployed in an it's a masterclass in TikTok marketing. What you guys have done. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk, and the way it's going, we might just be talking about it until the sun dies in 5 billion years. But TikTok's future is not 100% set in stone. There's still a bit of uncertainty there. So, what is EOS's kind of thought process as to that uncertain future, and what the kind of contingency plans might be?
Well, I mean, absolutely, we've learned so much, and we've grown because of and along with TikTok as a platform. Mostly because that's where our audience is, and I think originally it was because that's where young audiences were, and then obviously that diversified and broadened, and now you have many different consumers of all ages who just enjoy authentic and real short form content. And so our feeling is wherever our audience goes, that's where we want to be. And certainly the learnings that we've gained from the years that we have been like successfully engaging audiences on TikTok, they've just taught us things about our brand in general that are here to stay. Things like being more authentic and relatable, and pulling back the curtain and showing sort of the real people behind the corporate brand. These are all things that we would not have achieved without the benefit of a platform like TikTok. And we're going to take that with us as we evolve as a brand, and we'll of course take it to where our audience is. And who knows where that journey is going to take us, but I think that we're more prepared now for how we're going to take that content style and strategy to many different places than we ever have been.
I love that. And I think also there's a little bit of a difference in TikTok, just a little bit from other social platforms. There seems to be a little more of a community vibe there. Whereas, setting it next to Instagram, like I guess go to the Reels section. They're pretty similar, but there is just something going on at TikTok where there are kind of people, like I feel like fandom and tribes and all of that kind of stuff are happening a little more organically over there, and that just obviously fits into the EOS challenger mindset. Find your people and rally.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think fandom and community are sort of the key equities that we're kind of like that we've learned so much about and gained from all of our experiments on TikTok. And I think the question then becomes like, how do we apply that more broadly, and what are other ways that we can approach to building community, tapping into fandom? Things like, we've been focused a lot on doing live events and live sort of like activations where we can actually speak directly to people on the ground. And that's been a really interesting way for us to also tap into our community and our fans too.
That's so cool. And so, yeah, in addition to community and fandom, TikTok has seen the rise of the influencer. And obviously that's been a key component to EOS's marketing success. But in general, influencer is slowly kind of becoming like a dirty word. And I feel like there's a stereotypical influencer that might not really reflect the entire community that is in a lot of people's heads. So what are your feelings about kind of that public feeling towards the influencer genre in general, and where do you see influencers' role in marketing going? Is this something that you feel is sustainable long term?
So, when I think about the original, like back 15 years ago days of EOS like 1.0, we truly did tap into influencers. So these are people who hold influence and have built large audiences. And yet today, really the term that we use is creator. And I know there's been a lot of conversation in the industry about sort of influencer versus creator, but we really believe in that. And for us, the difference is that our creators aren't necessarily only people who have large audiences of people who they influence.
Mm-hmm.
They create with us.
Oh,
They
that's
help
cool.
us. They co-create stories and narratives, and sometimes, in some cases, help influence the way that we generally do our brand, strategy and communication as well. There's a lot of like kind of two-way back and forth that we're learning from each other. And increasingly, creator doesn't even necessarily mean large following at all. And where we've actually been increasingly interested is working with smaller creators who have very dedicated audiences who go very deep on specific kind of passion points. We talk a lot about fandom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fandom is a group of people who are passionate about a particular topic. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's everyone, because otherwise that would be just sort of like general population.
Right. You like something.
Right.
You're a creator.
We're talking about, for example, creators who may have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 followers, but are really, really deep in fragrance talk, because fragrance is a big part of our product strategy. And so they have their 5,000 and 10,000 are deeply passionate about the topic of fragrance. They are constantly talking about what's new and what's out there. And so if we can develop authentic relationships and have partnerships with creators in that space, it's not about them having 10 million followers. It's about them having fewer followers who are actually listening and paying attention to what they have to say.
Yes. Love that. Yeah. And honestly, with just having talked about TikTok a minute ago, like so much of that algorithm is driven by creativity. Is like the creative is
Right.
driving the algorithm. It's not like in the past things. Yeah. If you had 1 million followers and you were like, ate a burger today, like that would just bump to the head of the line. But yeah, that
Yeah.
creativity. And yes, the people who are like, this is my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a great insight.
It's so true, because I do think that one of the unique things about what TikTok created was a democratization of an algorithm that allowed anyone who has an interesting way of telling a story to be able to reach many, many more people who tell a story. You could have one follower and be somebody who reaches millions of people if you have an interesting way to tell your story. We actually had an example of speaking about our lotion. Our lotion has like a pump, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And sometimes if you use the product really quickly, the pump can't keep up because the product isn't kind of like settling down and then
Right.
So people were actually, they love our product so much that they were taking an X-Acto knife and hacking apart the bottle in order to basically, it was scary. It was very scary to watch. They were hacking apart the bottle so they could scoop out what remained stuck to the sides or at the bottom, and then stick it in like a yogurt tub or something like that, And so we're sitting here watching this happen, and we're thinking, you know what, we've been working on a prototype for a new type of like cap and the cap basically helps you get all the product out. And we only had like 20 pieces of a prototype, not produced,
Right.
not sent through the supply chain,
Proof of concept type stuff.
total R&D type stuff,
Right.
And we're like, and a few people had posted about it, and like it got a lot of traction, and we're like, what if we just sent them the prototype and just see what they say? Like, this is like our little mini like wacky focus group. Like, what if we sent them a fresh bottle, because they clearly ran out, the prototype, and a package of Band-Aids, because we do not want to see them cutting their fingers off. And like, we're not going to ask them for any, all we're going to say is, look, we saw your stuff. We just want to know what you think, right? And what ended up happening was almost every single person, like less than 20 people, ended up, of course, posting content about it that then went viral and reached millions of people.
Right.
And what they said was, I've never had a company listen to me. And they've said, I've never felt validated like this before. And, someone said like, any other brand would have blocked me for saying these things. And instead, EOS created something for me. They listened to what I had to say and created something that I could give them feedback on. And that is a modern day creator. That's a modern day, influencer.
Yeah.
It's somebody who can tell a story that reaches a lot of people but it's not about them being famous or a celebrity or having 10 million followers, like, or anything like that. It's having something interesting to say. And so we take a lot of that way of thinking and we bring it into the work, and we think about like it's not about the size of the audience. It's about the quality of the narrative, the quality of the storytelling, the quality of the engagement, and the partnership that we can have with individual people. And that's why I believe that the future of the creator economy is only going to get bigger and brighter, because it's really in the hands of so many people.
You're pretty good at this marketing thing.
It's new to me, actually. This is my first ever marketing job, so
what are y'all gonna do about this? Soyoung, this has been such a fun conversation, and I think that there's a treasure trove for our listeners to kind of dig through. I often said this one's a repeat. This one, you got to just run it back, folks, when the second we're done here. But before I leave you into this beautiful day, what is something right now that's got you excited, that you're passionate about? And it could be professional or personal. What's lighting up those synapses these days?
Well, since you say right now, today,
this instant.
Today is Shea Day for us. And what that means is we have had a long-standing partnership with an NGO called the Global Shea Alliance. We have worked in partnership with them to help to support the millions of independent shea harvesters in the shea parklands of Africa who are predominantly women, who earn an independent income to help support their families. And we've had a multi-year program, and today is sort of actually the day that we're announcing and sharing some of the details of our 2025 program. And so I'm just so heartened and gratified by the idea of being part of a brand that's really focused not only on doing well, but doing good. And this is just really one example of the many ways that ethos has really permeated our organization. So giving back and being able to do things like reinvesting in the shea parklands for sustainability has been something that has meant a lot to me, both personally as well as professionally, of course.
That's awesome. And I really think in 2025, to really holistically be thought of as a great brand, that element has to be there. You know what I mean? So an amazing way to wrap this up. Soyoung, we are indebted to you for stopping by the podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest on Scope. Well, friends, here we are again at the end of another episode of On Scope, the Marketing Podcast. I want to give a huge thank you to our guest this week, Soyoung Kang. She and her team are doing absolutely remarkable things over at EOS. And frankly, if you didn't learn something today, you probably weren't paying attention. As a reminder, if you have a topic or guest that you'd like to see in a future episode, shoot us a note. We'd love to hear from you. That email, onscope@ana.net. And as always, here is your moment of marketing meditation. Take a deep breath, relax those shoulders, and consider the following from author Roy T. Bennett. Life is about accepting the challenges along the way, choosing to keep moving forward, and savoring the journey. Think on that, and I'll see you next week.
This has been a presentation of ANA Studios.